and welcome back. Welcome back means we did the first part of this workshop last week in class, and today we're doing part 2 through video. This is English in 3D, a fresh look at drills, dialogues, and dictation. And I just said, but do you remember, 3D has two meanings. One is our three subjects. Like last week we did drills. What are the other two? Do you remember? They are dictations and dialogues. And you do need the same handout as we used last week, because we're going to do some activities during this video. But that 3D has two meanings. One is our three topics, but the other meaning is three dimensions. Because we're looking at these, I hope, these traditional tasks, but we're looking at them in new, fresh ways. Okay, so we're rethinking traditional tasks. All right, last week we talked about drills. So today we'll move on to dictations and then dialogues. Dictation usually means the teacher reads something and the students write it down exactly. And that's the most common way to do it. But there are more options. I like starting off with a little joke. And the joke is, if you use dictation, does that make you a dictator? A dictator is a military person like this guy. And sometimes in class, when we're doing dictations, it feels like the military. It feels like Gunjin Rashi, right? But it doesn't have to. Okay, so we'll start this section just like we started the one on drills. What do you like about dictation? What do you dislike about it? Think about times you've done it in the classroom. Think about times you've done it as a student, of course, but maybe when you've been teaching practice, maybe you've done it. Anything you feel about dictation, you probably want to turn off the video and write down at least one or two ideas under each part. And then when you're ready, turn the video back on. Okay? We ready to look at what we like and dislike? Let's start with what we like. Three things I wrote. Accuracy. Dictation is good accuracy work. And I find if they're short, students actually like it. Students like finding out when they're correct. Yeah? Also, it's intensive listening. It's very focused. You know what you're listening for. You know what you're trying to do. And that's something students like and something that's useful as well. Now, what do people dislike? Dictation is usually really, really boring. And bored students do not learn. Or at least they don't learn very much. And you don't have to understand to do a dictation. You just listen and write the words. And it's very, very bottom up. Now, remember we talked about top down, bottom up. Top down is meaning based. Bottom up is based on the words and the sounds. Well, dictation is usually very, very bottom up. But it can be more balanced. Okay? I want to start off with this dictation. This is called Your Story. Okay? Should have it in your handout. And I'm going to tell you the story 2 times. maybe the first time, close your eyes and imagine in your mind, get a picture, watch a movie of the story, okay? A long road went through a forest. A woman was walking down the road. Suddenly, she saw a man. He was wearing a shirt, pants, and a hat. He said something. Okay, think about the story for 1 minute, because I'm having problems with my microphone. I'm having problems with my microphone, so I'm going to turn off my mic and just try to do it loud enough that you'll be able to hear. All right. Let me tell you the story one more time. And this time, I'm going to put in some blanks. Okay? But I'd like you to write a word in those blanks. Any word you think fits. So I start out, a long road went through a forest. Okay? Now, on your handout you can see long is written through a forest. Well, forest is the word I said, so you write that on the line. But what kind of forest? That's where I said, I did a click sound. Or I could use a bell. A long road went through a forest. Please write the missing word forest, but also write what kind of forest it is. Any word you like. Okay? Woman was walking down the road. A woman was walking down the road. Suddenly, she saw a man. Suddenly, she saw a man. Of course, stop the video if you need more time to write. He was wearing a shirt, pants, and a hat. He was wearing a shirt, pants, and a hat. He smiled and said, okay. Now, you wrote the missing words, I hope, but the words for the bell or the click was really a kind of creativity exercise. You were writing mostly adjectives, kyoshi, but you were also imagining your story. Now, I wish we were face-to-face, because then I would have us work in pairs or small groups and compare. And some people saw a dark forest. Some people saw a beautiful forest, maybe a magical forest. And it's very interesting when I do this with students face to face. I tend to have two kinds of stories. One is a very magical, light, almost love story. There's a beautiful woman and a handsome man, and, what's their conversation? And sometimes it's like an old woman and an old man and a very different story. So even though we start from the same frame, our stories get very different, very unique, and very creative. And that's the point. Stuff that isn't boring if you make it creative. Okay. Read and run is just what it sounds like. Look at this page of your handout. Do you know these two companies? This logo, I think you do know, The Body Shop. We've got at least one here in Sendai, and they sell cosmetics and skincare stuff. And The Body Shop was founded by this woman, Anita Roddick, who's a very interesting person. This company, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Virgin, they have airlines, they have record stores, all kinds of things. It was started by this guy, Richard Branson. Now, what I do for Read and Run, usually the teacher reads the whatever you're supposed to write. Instead, I've got two big sheets, A3, and they have the story. And I'm going to put the story on the board. And I put them on in different places. Now, if we were really doing this, I would put 5, 6, 7 copies all around the classroom. And students work in pairs. Let's work together. You are A, I'm B. Okay? And we'll start with the Anita Roddick story, just because you know Body Shop. Okay? Now, the Anita Roddick paper is over there. So how it works is we start out, look at it together, and then I'm going to run to the paper. Now, I'm being a student. I'm not the teacher, okay? I'm your partner. I'm going to run and read it and see how much I can remember, okay? And while I'm doing that, please read the part that's written. And now I come back, I tell you the story, you write the missing words. Anita Roddick is the founder and head of Body Shop International, a chain of shops selling natural skincare products. Roddick gives 3 reasons for her success. Work hard. Okay, that's how much I remember, so then I go and try to read and remember the rest. Next part, be curious about things, break the rules. Okay, that was my part to dictate, and then in the classroom, You would go read the other story, come back and tell me, and I write it. So that's read and run. It's a dictation, but it's a peer dictation. That means the teacher's not reading it. The students are reading to each other and writing what they read, writing what they remember. Okay? The next one is called a tell a lie dictation. And how it works is this. Everybody writes 4 sentences about yourself. 3 are true, 1 is a lie. Okay? And we're going to do half of this, but if I was doing it in class, I would stop now and give you time to write 4 sentences. 3 are true and 1 is a lie. But try to make it a little difficult. Try to make it so the partner can't tell which is the lie right away. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is, in class I would do one as the example as the teacher, and then a peer dictation, a student-to-student dictation, where you would dictate your sentences to the others. I'll just do one example. I'll tell you my 4 sentences. Don't write all 4. Only write one sentence, the sentence you think is a lie. Okay? But please change it. I don't think you nanny nanny, or I don't think Mark nanny nanny. Okay? Listen, which one's the lie? Number 1. I got my driver's license when I was 14 years old. 14. I got my driver's license when I was 14 years old. Number 2. A few years ago, I went swimming with elephants. A few years ago, I went swimming with elephants. Number 3. In high school, my favorite class was English. In high school, my favorite class was English. This is my third set of teeth, and they're real, not false teeth. This is my 3rd set of teeth, and they are real. Now, which one was the lie? Please write, I don't think you nanny nanny. Okay? You can turn off the video while you write if you need to. Okay, what do you think? Please raise your hand. What's the lie? I got my driver's license when I was 14. A few years ago, I went swimming with elephants. In high school, my favorite class was English. My 3rd set of teeth, and they are real. And the answer? I didn't like English in high school. Did you like Kokugo? It's the same kind of thing. I thought it was usually pretty boring. So that's a tell a lie dictation. Okay. Now let's talk about the options. These are written on the front of the handout. You're doing a dictation. Who dictates? Usually the teacher. But what are the other choices? You just did a student-to-student dictation. Other times there's a recording. Maybe the recording does the dictation. Anyway, who dictates? Do the students write exactly what they hear or something else? Right? In the read and run dictation, you were writing exactly what I said. But in the forest and in the tell a lie dictation, you were changing it. And if it's a close, close, notice the spelling, cielo, oops, there we are, C-L-O-Z-E, C-L-O-Z-E, it means fill in the blank. If it's a closed dictation, the forest was a fill in the blank dictation. Do they write, when do they write? Usually listen and write, but there are other choices. Okay, please turn off the video. Think of at least one or two ideas for each. If you can't think of any ideas, look at the inside of your handout, and there are some choices written. Okay, turn off the video. Come back when you're ready to start again. Okay, just a couple comments before we go on. Who dictates? I like student-to-student dictation. Yeah, they're doing more speaking. They have to speak clearly so the partner understands. And usually it's more interesting. Do they write exactly what they hear, or do they change it? I like it when they change things. As you know, I think creativity is an important thing, and we can build creativity into it. With close, when do they write? Now, most of the time, especially in textbooks, and close, fill-in-the-blank dictations, very, very common in the Monkesho textbooks. And usually it's listen, write the missing words. I like to have the students read, guess, then listen, see if they were correct. Okay, those are dictation options. Please think about them when you see dictations in textbooks, when you do it in teaching practice, or any other time. All right, dialogues, textbook conversations. Very, very common in any kind of conversation-based English class. Tell you a story. This happened long, long ago when I was young and single, and I loved to mingle. I was in Tokyo. I was in Roppongi, actually. And I was in a bar by myself. And all of a sudden, at the next table, a French woman came in, sat down at the next table. Now, background information. I studied French in junior high school for 1 year. So long, long ago, right? But she was there, alone. I'm alone. I'm friendly. And so I said, bonsoir, good evening. And she said, bonsoir. I thought, great, what do I say next? But I could remember, after all those years from French class, beginning French, Unit 1, Dialogue 1. So I said, comment vous appelez-vous? Je m'appelle Marc. How do you do? My name is Mark. And she said, je m'appelle René. My name is René. Good so far. So I went on to my next line of the conversation, which was, je voudrais aller à la bibliothèque. I want to go to the library. And she looked at me and like, à la bibliothèque? Non, je voudrais aller à la discothèque. the library. I mean, and it's like the old song where the guy says, "Go, baby, go," and she left, and there I sat, a victim of the memorized conversation. Right? I mean, that's the problem with dialogues. They don't change. It's like they're written in stone. You can't change them. And in real conversation, you have to be flexible. So again, what do you like about dialogues, textbook conversation? What do you dislike about them? And really think about this one, because dialogues are one of the most common activity types in textbooks. Okay, turn off the video while you're writing, write your ideas. Okay? All right. What do we like? Number one, there's context. Many times in textbooks, sentences are just sentence level, just the same grammar pattern over and over, whereas dialogues have a context. They're accurate, they're correct. They show discourse. That means, how does language fit together? How do we get from the beginning of a conversation to the middle to the end? And sometimes the story is interesting. Maybe. I have to say that most of the time in the Monkasho, Kyokasho, they're not so interesting. But they can be. And you can make them interesting. Okay? So what do we dislike? Well, number one, dialogues are frozen speech. They don't change, right? And you don't have to really understand. You can practice the dialogue without really understanding the meaning, right? And partners don't have to listen to each other. Yeah? So it means there's often not real communication going on. But there are some things we can do. I'm going to show you a dialogue from a textbook, right? And here's the situation. There's a party. Somebody named Pat is having a party, okay? And you're meeting someone new, okay? Now, what you should know, Pat can be a man's name or a woman's name. That's why we used that name. So, you're a woman, you're meeting a guy, a man, at a party. Now here's the problem. I'm a man, but I'm recording this on a day where there's nobody else at school. So I don't have a partner. But what I can do, as you know, right next to the university, Miyagi Gakuen has a high school. And so let me see if I can find a high school girl. Hi. This is going to be my partner for the conversation. And you can just imagine. Okay, I've got to find the little chords so she can talk. Okay? And so we're at a party, and I come up to her. Oh, I forgot. Your part is inner voice. Inner voice means, what are you thinking in your mind? You're not saying it out loud, but every time you have a conversation, a real conversation, you're having two conversations. One is what you're saying, but one is what you're thinking. That's your inner voice. So I'm going to be the guy. She's going to be the woman, and you are the inner voice. So for each part of the dialogue, please think, what's he thinking? What's he really thinking? What's she really thinking? Okay? Okay. So we start out, and I say, nice party, isn't it? And she says, yes, it is. By the way, I'm Maki. Okay, that was part one. Nice party, isn't it? She says, yes, it is. By the way, I'm Maki. What is she thinking? What am I thinking? Think about it if you're at a party, a guy you don't know introduces himself. What are you thinking? What is he thinking? Please write down your idea. Now, I've talked to a lot of women about this conversation, and usually they say the woman is thinking, who's this? Do I want to have a conversation? And the man is thinking, who's she? Is she with somebody or is she alone? Okay? Then I go on to the next part of the conversation, and I say, she just said, by the way, I'm Maki. Nice to meet you. I'm Mark. How do you know Pat? Remember, Pat is it's Pat's party. How do you know Pat? We play tennis together. Do you play? I love tennis. Okay. What's she thinking? How do you know Pat, the host? We play tennis together. Do you play? I love tennis. What's she thinking? What's he thinking? Turn off the video for writing time. Okay? And then she just said, I love tennis. And I said, how do you know Pat? Oh, we go out together. Oh. What was she thinking? What was I thinking? Okay, that's inner voice. And I find inner voice is a great way to make conversations more interesting. Especially because textbook conversations, they're usually a little bit boring. So this makes him, and here, he's interested in her. She's trying to decide if she's interested or not. It turns out she's not because she's dating somebody else, right? Inner voice is a great way to make the conversation more interesting. Maybe I should add, to do this in class, I often, even though they have the textbook, I often photocopy the conversation into the middle of a big piece of paper, like A3 or B4, so they have more time to write on the outside. They can write what the people are thinking. Also, we can talk about transactional and interactional language. Transactional language is when we're moving information. For example, last week we did the, excuse me, where's the bank conversation, right? The drill, the jazz chant actually. That's transactional. We're moving information. A lot of daily conversation is interactional. We're not really moving information. We're just, what's the weather like? It's really hot, isn't it? Or it's kind of cool. We're talking about the weather. We both know what the weather is. We're just interacting as a way of keeping the conversation going. Okay, so very often inner voice is a great way to do interactional language. Transactional, we already know why we're doing it. interactional we need to work with. Another thing we can do is human recording. Textbook conversations are often for two people. I like practicing in groups of three: A-san, B-san, and the human recorder. And only the recorder has the textbook. Okay? So here is a conversation. Okay. The guy says, "What do you like to do in your free time?" She says, "I enjoy going to movies." "Really? Me too. I go almost every week." Are you busy this weekend?" "Well, no." "Do you want to go to a movie?" "With you?" "Yeah, with me." Okay? So that's the conversation. But how this works is A-san, B-san, and the recorder. So I say, "Do you like to go, or what do you like to do in your free time?" And A says, "What do you like to do?" And maybe A forgets. The recorder can repeat many times. "In your free time." "Oh, what do you like to do in your free time?" "I enjoy going to movies." "I enjoy going to movies." Okay? So it's a way A-san and B-san have to remember it for a short time. And the recorder actually gets lots of practice too. It's also fun to use to add a little drama, and we'll talk in a minute about how to do that. I put in your handout, there are some drama cards, voice variation, and action variations, physical variations. So, for example, on voice variations, "You're really excited today." Make your voice show how you feel. B, "You feel very bored today." Make your voice show how you feel. So that conversation, "What do you like to do in the weekends?" "I like to go to movies." It could be, "So what do you like to do in the weekend?" "I like going to movies." Yeah. Use your voice to show emotion. Okay? Or physical variation. You're drinking coffee. Gesture every time you talk. Mirror each other. Do the same actions as your partner. Many things. You can add these to any conversation, any dialogue, just to make them more interesting. Okay? Shadowing. I think you know shadowing from high school, or at least one way. The way most students know shadowing is the teacher says it and the students repeat it. Repeat after me. Or the teacher plays the recording and the students repeat it. And that's one way. And usually shadowing is they say everything. Well, that's not the only way. You can say everything, or sometimes I tell my students, "Listen, just repeat the last part." Okay? Which is very common in real life. So here the teacher is saying, "Okay, and don't forget that homework." And the students say, "Hi, forget that homework." Okay, right? Okay, that's just a joke, but that's the point. You don't have to repeat everything. So, types of shadowing. So think about that. What do you like to do over the weekend? Conversation. What do you like to do in your free time? We could do full shadowing. What do you like to do in your free time? You say everything. Or we could do what I call slash shadowing. Slash just means, right? So it's like, what do you like to do in your free time? Because if a sentence is very long, students can't remember everything, so they just do part. Or Silent shadowing. What do you like to do in your free time? Let me give you a hint. When you have a class that is boring, silent shadowing is a great way to remember or to pay attention. It helps you remember. Or we can do keyword, last word shadowing. What do you like to do in your free time? My free time? Or ask a question. My free time? Why do you ask? All right, so there are lots of ways to shadow. In your handout, on the back of that road dictation, there are 2 pages of different ways to shadow. One's in English, one's in Japanese. That'll make it easier to use, for example, with junior high students. Okay. Dialogues. Again, please think about the choices. Think about the options. Do students sit down, or do they stand up and move while they practice? Okay? Do they use their regular voices, or do they change the voice? When I was using that doll to be the woman in that dialogue, I changed her voice. Do students use their regular voices, or do they change? What happens next? What happens after the dialogue? And do they focus on what the characters are saying, the words, or something else? Yeah? Could be as simple as I say, practice the dialogue a couple times. Okay, now stand up, go for a walk with your partner, walk around the room and have a conversation so they have something else to do. Okay, please take a minute, turn off the video, write at least 1 or 2 ideas for each option. Okay? And then when you're ready, come back and we'll talk about these. Okay? Here are my ideas. Do they sit or stand up and move? I almost always have students stand up and move. Why? Because they're sitting down most of the class, and that's not good for your brain. So stand up and move. Blood moves, right? So you get new blood, new oxygen in your brain. It makes you more awake, alert. Okay? Regular voices or change voice. Often dialogue, students do dialogues with like no energy, no life. So changing the voice can make it more interesting. Okay, what happens next? What's the next part of the story? And do they focus on what they're saying or something else? I would also encourage you, I mentioned inner voice. Notice your own. Notice your own inner voice. Very often it's completely different than what you say out loud. Notice it, because it's interesting. All right. Now, what I would do if we were face-to-face in class is an activity called well-balanced students. I would say think of the ideas last week's class and the ideas today, and what and how will you use them. And for well-balanced students, I have students in pairs, and you hold on to your partner's wrists. This is much stronger than this, by the way. Hold on like this, and lean back and balance like that, and just have a conversation. Now, we can't do that on video because you don't have a partner right there. So what I would like you to do is, it's another well-balanced student, but one balanced student. I'd like you to stand up on one foot. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I'm on one foot and my other leg is bent. And
what do you remember today? Okay, we did dictations, and we did the read and run, and we did tell a lie. How much can you remember, and how long can you stand like this? And then when you fall over, do the other foot. See how long you can stand up. Okay? Now, I want to close with, usually we say in conclusion, which means I'm finished. But I'm going to say in conclusion, which means I don't have an answer. All I have is these questions, right? So instead of giving you an answer, I'm going to give you some quotations that I like a lot. The first one is from a Spanish poet named Antonio Machado. And he said, "Traveler, there is no path. One makes the path by walking." And I think that's true for us as teachers. There is no one way to teach English. You create the way to teach English by teaching. A quote from the Buddha: "There are only 2 mistakes one can make along the road to truth. Not going all the way and not starting." You're going to be a teacher. That's a road. That's a path. Don't make the mistake of not starting. You have to create it. You have to try new things. And one is from Alice in Wonderland, which I'm sure you know, the book. And there's that scene where Alice is in Wonderland. She's tired. She's lost. And she comes across the Cheshire Cat. And she says, "Could you tell me, please, which way I ought to go?" And the cat says, "It depends a good deal on where you want to get to." You're going to be a teacher, and I really want you to be a fresh, creative teacher. And that depends but it's up to you. So it all depends a good deal on where you want to get to. So, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for thinking about this. We'll talk about the ideas in class next time. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time.